Good day everyone, this is Coach Mek of Gurung Pinoy coming to you all the way from South Carolina, USA. If this is your first time to watch one of our videos, then don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you'll be notified of the next videos that we are going to have. Like this video. Also, you may visit and follow our page on Facebook, that's still Gurung Pinoy. We also have an Instagram which is Gurung Pinoy PH. Okay, now we have been receiving a lot of positive feedbacks again. We thank you for all the positive feedbacks. You keep us going and you keep us inspired to make more videos to help you pass the LET and also the civil service examinations. This is the last installment to our curriculum development. The next videos that we are going to have are those topics that you have requested. Again, there's going to be a bonus at the end of this video. So make sure that you continue watching and that you complete this entire video. Alright, so we start with our discussion. Now today's foci are the following. First one, we're going to talk about the curriculum design models. Secondly, we will talk about the curriculum approaches. And the last one would be all the curricular innovations that we have in the Philippines. So let's start with our first topic, which is curriculum design models. Now, the curriculum design models that we are going to talk about are three types: subject-centered designs, learner-centered designs, and problem-centered designs. We start with subject-centered designs. If you say subject-centered design curriculum, the focus is on the content of the curriculum. The focus is the subject matter or all the topics that are included in the curriculum. This corresponds mostly to the textbook written for the specific subject. And you have the schools dividing the school hours or the class hours across different subjects. So as you can see, when we say subject-centered design, we don't care about our students, we don't care about the learning process, we only care about the subject. We only want all of the topics to be covered within the school year. So we don't really care if the student has really grasped the topic, if the student has really understood the topic. We don't really care about those things. What we care about is that we finish or we complete the textbook. Okay, so we need to complete teaching all the contents of the textbook without regard of the understanding of the student, without regard of the learning process. Okay, so that's your subject-centered design. Now, under this, let's have the first type. Okay, so the first type of your subject-centered design would be the subject design. This is the oldest and most familiar. This is very easy to deliver. It has complementary books, written and available support instructional materials, but learning is so compartmentalized. Okay, it forgets about students' natural tendencies, interests, and experiences. So again, if you say subject design as one example of your subject-centered design, it does not really care about the tendency, the interests, the experiences of the students. No, it does not care about that. It only cares about the subject matter. Okay, so it has its books, it has all the support instructional material. So the only focus is that they should finish the entire topic list. They should finish the books. They should finish using all the instructional materials for the given subject. Okay, so that's a subject design. Very compartmentalized learning. The second type that we have under subject-centered design is your discipline design. When you say discipline design, this is related to the subject design, but it focuses on academic discipline, often used in college. Okay, so when we're talking about discipline design, this is very similar to our majors in college. Say your major is English. So then you are going to be studying all the disciplines under English. Okay, so you'll study literature, you'll study grammar, you'll study word usage, you'll study composition, for example, you'll study writing and all those stuff. Okay, so that's discipline design. It's related to the subject design but focuses on one academic discipline, and it's often used in colleges that we have. Now the third type is correlation design. Correlation design, this means it links separate subject designs. Okay, so you have different subjects, but those that are related to one another are linked. Okay, so say you have science and math. We all know that science and math are two very related subjects. And so in your correlation design, there is going to be a core curriculum that tackles or that links the separate subjects together. Okay. Now, the last one for this would be your broad field design, which is also called interdisciplinary, sometimes called holistic curriculum, because it draws around themes in integration. Okay, so if you are already using themes, you are already using integration, then you'd call that the broad field design or interdisciplinary design. Okay, so first you have the subject. Okay, so if we are going to summarize everything, the subject is only focused on one subject matter. Okay, so that's only focused on one subject matter. Then you have disciplinary. Okay, if your major is English, then it's only focused on English. Okay, so this is what you use in colleges. When you say correlated, okay, those subjects that are related together are linked. Okay, so when you say correlated, this is the combination of the different subject designs. Okay, and when you say all the disciplines are interconnected, you'd call that the broad field. Okay, so that's the broad field. All the disciplines are connected, or you'd also call this interdisciplinary. Okay, you're working around themes and integration. So as you can see, we have set, or we have specified the relationships that we have here. When you're only talking about one subject, then that's subject-centered design or subject design. When you linked all the related subjects together, then you'd call this correlated. When you're talking about just one discipline, say English only or math only, those majors that we have in college, then you'd call that discipline design. Okay, but when you say broad field design or interdisciplinary, then you are working around themes and you are integrating all the different disciplines. Okay, so that ends our different types of subject-centered designs. Now we go to our learner-centered designs. As the name suggests here, the student or the learner is the focus and more emphasized in the primary level. Okay, we know that this exists primarily in the grade school level. Okay, so nakikita po natin ito sa elementary. This is very common in elementary schools. Okay, the student is the focus. The teachers would oftentimes make content based on the learner's needs, based on the learner's knowledge, okay, based on the learner's level of knowledge. Okay, so that's your learner-centered designs. Now we go to the specific types of this. The first one that we have is child-centered design. This is an influence of John Dewey, the father of progressivism, Rousseau, one of our naturalists, Pestalozzi, and of course Froebel, the father of kindergarten. Okay, and this is anchored on the needs and interests of the child who engages with his or her environment and also pertains to learning by doing. So when we say child-centered design, the child is at the center of our design. Learning happens when the child learns by doing or when the child experiences several things in his environment. Okay, so the child explores his environment and that's when learning happens. Okay, so again, this is an influence of John Dewey, Rousseau, Pestalozzi, and Froebel. Okay, so that's your child-centered design. Now, the second type is your experience-centered design. The child is still the focus of this, just like your child-centered design, but this believes that the interests and needs of the learners cannot be pre-planned or not planned by the teacher. Experiences of the learners become the starting point of the curriculum. Learners are made to choose from the various activities that the teacher provides. So this is very similar to the Montessori technique. Okay, if you're familiar with the Montessori technique by Maria Montessori, if you go to a Montessori the child is just given several options. Okay, the child would enter the Montessori, and then the child would see different activities and different materials, and the child can just pick whatever it is that he or she would want to learn on that day. Okay, so sinasabi ng ating experience-centered design, the teacher cannot plan what the child would study or what the child would learn. Okay, so bahala na yung child. Whatever experience the child would have on that day simply depends on the child's choice. Okay, so that's your experience-centered design. But still, our center, our focus would still be the child or would still be the learner. And the last part for this would be your humanistic design. This is by Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers, and they stress on the development of positive self-concept and interpersonal skills. So the focus of Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers, it is that the child should reach his full potential. The child should reach self-actualization. The child should be the best human that he wants to be. Okay, so let's try to go to the theories of Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers. We start with Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. According to Abraham Maslow, the highest level that a child can reach would be self-actualization. Okay, so self-actualization, this is the best version of what the child can be. But according to Maslow, before the child can reach self-actualization, he first should satisfy the different steps that he has here from the bottom going up. So first, he has to satisfy his physiological needs like breathing, food, water, sex, sleep, homeostasis. So that means the child cannot learn very well if the child has an empty stomach. Okay, if the child is hungry, then the child cannot reach self-actualization. That's according to Maslow. Okay, now after satisfying physiological needs, the child can continue with his safety needs, then love and belonging, then self-esteem, until such time that the child has reached his self-actualization. Okay, the best version of what he can be, that's self-actualization. Okay, so as a teacher and as a parent, it is very important for us to provide the lowest steps first. Okay, so physiological needs first, the needs of the body, then safety needs, security of the person, security of the child, love and belonging on the third stage. And then, of course, the child would develop his self-esteem, confidence, and then the child can now reach self-actualization. Okay, so that's according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So again, as the parent or as a teacher, it is very important for you to know these facts, for you to understand these theories so that your child can reach self-actualization. Okay, now we go to Carl Rogers. He was born in 1902 and he died 1987. He was a humanistic psychologist and he stressed the importance of acceptance. Actually, the theory of Carl Rogers is very similar to that of Maslow. Okay, so still, the main focus is that the child should reach self-actualization, but the emphasis of Carl Rogers' theory is self-acceptance. So for him, for the child to reach self-actualization, to reach his full potential, he needs to accept himself first. Okay, so he needs to be true to himself first. He needs to accept what he is first as a person before he can actually self-actualize, okay? Or before he can actually become the best version of himself, which is tama naman, okay? So, kailangan muna nating i-accept ang ating mga sarili, kung ano man yung strengths natin, at kung ano man yung kahinaan natin, whatever your strengths are, whatever your weaknesses are, you need to accept those things first before you can better yourself, okay? Or before you can improve yourself into the best version that you can be, okay? So that's Carl Rogers. So those two, Maslow and Rogers, are the proponents of our humanistic design. Okay, so that ends our learner-centered designs. The last one that we have here is a problem-centered designs. This one, draw on social problems, needs, interests, and abilities of the learners. Okay, so the focus is that the social problems. What are the problems that the learner is facing? Okay, so that's the center, or that's the focus of this design. Now we go to the examples of this. The first one is life situation design. It allows the students to clarify their views of various problem areas, uses the past and the present experiences of learners to analyze the basic areas of living. Now, your life situation design is only based on the life of the student. Okay? What has the life of the student been through? Ano nga ba yung mga na-face na niyang problema? What were some of the problems that the student has faced in the past and in the present? And he has to analyze these experiences for him to be able to survive in the basic areas of living. Okay, so that's life situation design. Allows the students to clarify their views of various problem areas by using his past and present experiences. Okay, so the child is given a problem and the child is going to use his past and present experience to deal with it. Okay, so that's your life situation design. The second one is the core design. It centers on general education and the problems are based on common human activities. Now, you need to remember when you say core, these are only the basic education topics that we have. So that's why we have general education here. So core design, the main center point is your general education. Okay, and the problems given to the child are based on human activities, the common human activities that we have. Okay, so we're done with the different curriculum design models. Now we go to our second focus today, which is curriculum approaches. Okay, so we've already talked about curriculum design models. What are some of the models that your curriculum can have? Now, when you say curriculum approaches, how do the administrators of a school attack a certain curriculum? How do they manage their school with the use of the different curricula that they have? Okay, so let's go to the different curriculum approaches that we have here. There are only 4 types of curriculum approaches: behavioral, managerial, system approach, and humanistic approach. So let's go to the first one, which is behavioral approach. Now, in your behavioral approach, you start with the goals and objectives, then you have the content and activities, which would match your learning objective. Then, of course, you have learning outcomes, which are evaluated. Okay, so goals and objectives at the beginning, and the change of behavior or learning, which is evaluated. Okay, so again, when you say behavioral approach, we start with the goals and objectives, then we match that with specific activities, then we evaluate the learning of the student. It's that simple. That's your behavioral approach to curriculum. Now, second approach would be managerial approach. The principal is the curriculum leader and at the same time instructional leader, who is supposed to be the general manager, sets the policies, priorities, establishes the direction of change and innovation, and plans and organizes curriculum and instructions. As you can see, the root word here is manager. Okay, so when you say managerial approach, the principal or whoever is the highest stakeholder there or the highest person in position, he or she has so many responsibilities. Okay, all the power comes or all the power stems from the manager, from the principal. It can be the school president, it can be the dean, it can be the headmaster. Okay, so that's your managerial approach. Somebody becomes the instructional leader, the general manager, sets everything, rolls the dice, starts the game. Okay, so that's your managerial approach. Now, the third approach is your system approach. Okay, again, the root word here, very important, is the term system. And this is represented by the school's organizational chart. Okay, so it shows the line, staff relationships of personnel and how decisions are made. Okay, so in your systems approach, this is actually the opposite of your managerial approach. In your managerial approach, the main focus is the manager, the headmaster, the principal, the dean, the school president. But in your system approach, the entire organizational chart is looked upon. The entire organizational chart, the relationships, the line staff relationships there are examined. Okay, so decisions are made from the top going down. That's your system approach. Then the last one, of course, is the humanistic approach. This is rooted in the progressive philosophy and child-centered movement. Okay, so again, when you say humanistic approach, would want the child to develop his full potential, would want the child to reach self-actualization. Holistic education for the child with the child as the center of your curriculum. Okay, so that's humanistic approach. Okay, so that ends our curriculum approaches. And the last topic that we have, and probably the most important out of the three foci that we have today, is curricular innovations. Okay, so these are the innovations that we've had in our country, the Philippines. What are some curricular innovations in the Philippines? So these 7 here are listed. We start with the 2002 BEC, or 2002 Basic Education Curriculum. Then you have the 3rd Elementary Education Program, Secondary Education Development and Improvement Program, the new Teacher Education Curriculum for BED and BSED, the Ladderiged Curriculum for Bachelor of Technical Teacher Education, or BTTE. Then, of course, we have the UBD, Understanding Mag Design, and the latest, of course, will be the K-12 or K-12 Basic Education Curriculum. We start with the first one, the 2002 Basic Education Curriculum. So these are the most important points in the 2002 BEC. The Department of Education envisions every learner to be functionally literate, equipped with life skills, appreciative of arts and sports, and imbued with the desirable values. This is the most important part there: makabayan, makatao, makakalikasan, at makajos. Okay, so if you see this question in the LET, for example, the LET would ask you, the Philippine educational system has already seen a lot of curricular innovations. Which curriculum has given us the idea that the child should be makabayan, makatao, makakalikasan, at makajos? So then your answer should be the 2002 Basic Education Curriculum. Okay, so that's the 2002 BEC. Life skills, arts and sports, and values, and of course, makabayan, makatao, makakalikasan, at makajos. Then, for the 3rd Elementary Education Program, this is the second curricular innovation that we have. This is the response of the Department of Education to the social reform agenda. Its goal was to improve completion rates and access to quality elementary education. Okay, so the focus here would be elementary education. Now, although its focus is just elementary education, it has actually given us a lot of changes, a lot of advocacies. The first one, of course, very important, is what we call the INSET, the in-service training for teachers. Then you have the School Improvement and Innovation Facility, or CF, Student Assessment, or SA, Educational Management Information System, Procurement and Monitoring Evaluation, and Principal Empowerment. Okay, so these are all the advocacies. These are all the innovations that the 3rd Elementary Education Program has given us, although it was mainly focused on elementary education, primarily to improve the completion rates and to gain access to quality elementary education. Now, if we have the 3rd Elementary Education Program, which was just focused on the elementary education, we also have the Secondary Education Development and Improvement Program, which is focused on the secondary education. So this is the partner of our elementary innovation a while ago. Its purpose is to improve equitable access to secondary education in poverty-affected areas. Curriculum reforms included improving access to secondary education and facilitating decentralized secondary education management. So if a long time ago, we only have one high school in a town, for example, nowadays, you know, and you can see that there are already different high schools in the different parts of a town. Okay, so there's decentralization of secondary education management. Each of these high schools now have their own principals. Okay, so everyone now has access to secondary education. That's because of SEDIP. Okay, that's our 3rd curricular innovation. Now we go to the 4th one. It's the new Teacher Education Curriculum for BED and BSED. This curriculum is aligned to the NCBTS, or what we call National Competency-Based Teacher Standards. According to this, curriculum for our BED and BSED are made up of 3 components: the Gen Ed, General Education, the Professional Education, and Specialization or Content courses. Okay? So now, if you are going to take your LET, if you're a BSED graduate, then you'll have 3 parts for your LET: General Education, then you'll have Professional Education, and of course, you'll have your Specialization or your major. Now, before, if you are a BEd graduate, you'll still have 3 parts. So you'll also have general education, professional education, and content courses. Content courses is similar to your general education. It's also a combination of all the various subjects that we have. But nowadays, there's no longer content courses. Okay, so you're very lucky if you are a BEd graduate, because you'll be done by around 1:30 when you take the LET, since you only have 2 areas now. That's general education and professional education. All right, now we go to the next one. The Ladderiged curriculum for Bachelor of Technical Teacher Education, or BTTE. Okay, now BTTE here prepares teachers in technical vocational education and training, or TVET. And the course is composed of 4 components: Gen Ed, professional studies, specialization, and instructional technology. Your BTTE is very similar to your TLE. If you've heard of BSED, Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in TLE. It's very similar to BTTE, but in your BTTE, each of the group has their own specialization. So there are students who are taking BTTE who will only be studying electricity. There are those who are only going to be studying food and nutrition, for example. There are those who are only going to be studying garments, for example. There are those who are only going to be studying electronics. Okay, so that's your BTTE. They have a specialization. So Ladderiged curriculum for Bachelor of Technical Teacher Education. Now, the next one that we have, second to the last, is Understanding by Design, or UBD. This is, of course, by Grant Wiggins and Jay McTighe. Its emphasis is on the backward design. So we always say, if you are making your UBD lesson plans, you always have the end in your mind. Okay, have the end in your mind when you make it. So what are some of the stages of your backward design of UBD? The stage 1 is to identify the results and desired objectives. So what are the goals that you want to have? What are those things that you want to reach? What are some of the objectives that you want your students to achieve? That's your stage 1. Stage 2, define acceptable evidence and assessment. What are some tests that you are going to do? What are some performance tasks? What are projects? What are products that you'd be asking from your student? Then stage 3, the last one, what would be the learning plan and what would be the instruction? Okay, so how are you going to teach your students the topics, the content, so that they'd be able to reach stage 1? Okay, and they'd be able to give you stage 2. Okay, so that's the 3 stages of your backward design. Then the last curriculum innovation that we have is a K-12 basic education curriculum. This was acted upon on May 15th, 2013 by Republic Act, or RA 10533. This is still by the then President Noynoy Aquino. Now, under your K-12, there's kindergarten plus 6 years of primary education, 6 years elementary, plus 4 years junior high school, plus 2 years senior high school. So if you are going to add this up, that's a total of 12. Okay, so that's K to 12. That's why it's K to 12, or sometimes it's called K plus 12, because that means kinder plus 12 more years of education. Okay, so if there's going to be a question in the LET, the K to 12 basic education curriculum was acted upon through RA 10533. Under this curricular innovation, how many years should a student study? Okay, of course, your answer should be 13 years total. Okay, so kindergarten plus 12 more years of formal education. Now, these are the different goals of the K-12. First one, strengthening of ECE, or early childhood education. So everyone should undergo kindergarten. Before, some of us may have gone through grade 1 or the first grade without going through kindergarten. But now it is a must that you go through kindergarten. So strengthening of the ECE. Now, next one, making the curriculum relevant to the learners. So contextualization and enhancement. The next goal is to ensure integrated and seamless learning. That's why they're using spiral progression. Then you build proficiency through language, that's mother tongue, your MTB, multilingual education. So now, we're not just using bilingual education, not just English and Filipino, but are also using the mother tongue. Next, the second to the last goal of K-12 is gearing up for the future. That's why you have your senior high school, where you have the different focus areas, okay? So you have the STEM, you have philosophy, I forgot the terms, you have the ones for business. Okay, so that's gearing up for the future through senior high school, and of course, nurturing the historically developed through college and livelihood readiness, 21st century skills. Okay, so these are the different goals of K-12. I hope they're all hitting these goals. Alright, so sa muli, ito po ang inyong Gurong Pinoy. Thank you so much for watching this video in full. This is the last part of our curriculum development. Thank you so much for supporting our channel. Make sure that you subscribe, you hit that bell button so that you'll know whenever we have a new topic, we have a new discussion. And of course, you may go to Facebook and follow or like our page, that's Gurong Pinoy. You may write the comments or your suggestions there, and any of the topics that you'd want me to cover, you'd want me to discuss, just write that as your suggestion. Now, as I have mentioned, I am giving you your bonus right now, but this time, I'd like you to send an email through our email, which is studylinkteacherspage@gmail.com. This is our YouTube channel's email address. Okay, as you can see, this says StudyLink because that was the name of our previous review center. So again, our email address is studylinkteacherspage@gmail.com, and I'd like you to just send me an email with the code Pinoy. Okay, so when you send that code, I know that you have completed watching this video, okay? Because of course, I'm not going to give the free materials to those people who did not complete watching this video, because again, that's going to just be useless. The free materials already have the answers, but it's going to be very difficult for you to understand all those answers if you did not listen to my discussion, if you did not watch this video in full, okay? So again, just send me an email through studylinkteacherspage@gmail.com and write the code Pinoy, and then you are going to receive today's free material. So again, this is Gurong Pinoy na nagsasabing maliit man na butil na mga kaalaman, ang dulo nito ay malaking kaginhawaan. Maraming salamat po sa inyong panonood. Mabuhay kayo and stay safe mga kaguro.